Celebration time. It don't matter what part of the jewel they come from. You that you and me that me. But guess what? All are we the one.
Experts calculate that the Belize Barrier Reef Reserve System is 10,000 years old. Its birthday is recognized annually on June 8th, which coincides with World Oceans Day. The Fisheries Department and the Wildlife Conservation Society are two organizations that continue to ensure that the areas that make up the system are protected. We sat down with representatives from two organizations, and we will have that conversation after this break to hear from our partners. National Bank of Belize, the Barry, Minister Kevin Bernard, Silkgrass Farms, Del Martin, and Ministry of Blue Economy.
Your dream home isn't just a house, it's where your future takes shape. At NBB, we go beyond financing. Our partnership with trusted professionals ensure you're supported at every step. We simplify the process, offering expert advice, personalized services, and fast approvals to make your journey stress-free. With NBB, you're not just buying a house, you're investing in your future with confidence and ease.
Action.
At NBB, we don't just help you finance your dream, we help you live it. National Bank of Belize, your partner every step of the way.
Debari is your one-stop store of choice. We have an array of electronics and accessories to keep you connected. Your home will be the envy of your friends when you choose from a wide variety of household appliances. We can help you dress the entire family in style and comfort with our selection of clothing and footwear. Visit our store on Albert Street in Belize City, San Pedro, La Isla Bonita, Park Street in Orange Walk Town, Belmopan, and San Ignacio, Santa Elena. Debari, get more, pay less.
At Silkgrass Farms, we believe in more than just growing food. We're cultivating a future. Across 9,000 acres in the foothills of the Maya Mountains, our family of farms grows a vibrant array of crops: coconuts, citrus, cacao, watermelons, avocados. But our mission goes beyond harvests. Through sustainable agriculture, we are not just growing crops, we're strengthening ecosystems and reversing the impacts of climate change. Silkgrass Farms is a part of a global movement, transforming modern food systems into living stories of nutrition, nature, and people. From our fields to your table, every product tells a story of health and hope for the future.
Four years ago, Belize's blue economy was a vision, a dream waiting to be realized. It was an untapped resource with immense potential, but lacked the leadership and strategy to truly thrive. Today, under the leadership of Honorable Andrea Perez, Minister of Blue Economy and Disaster Risk Management, that vision is no longer just a dream, it's a reality. The blue economy has become a cornerstone of Belize's growth, creating sustainable jobs, boosting our GDP, and preserving our natural heritage. Under the previous administration, our rich marine resources and coastal communities faced many challenges: limited innovation, missed opportunities, and a lack of direction. This administration has championed groundbreaking initiatives such as the National Adaptation Plan for the Coastal Zone and Fisheries sector, which is the first of its kind in Belize and is a testament to the ministry's commitment to building a robust and sustainable blue economy. The Ministry of Blue Economy and Disaster Risk Management, safeguarding lives, seas, and sustainability.
Celebration time. guess what? All of we the one. See what I mean?
The Belize Barrier Reef Reserve System is an internationally designated World Heritage Site, and we are proud to boast the second largest barrier reef in the world here in our beautiful Belize. And with me are folks who are directly connected with this very important piece of our country. I'm talking about the Belize Fisheries Department and the Wildlife Conservation Society. Those are two organizations that are working together along with other organizations to protect this valuable asset that we boast of, the second largest barrier reef in the world. I have four guests with me, and it's good to have four of you here. But to make it easier for me, I'll ask you to introduce yourselves one by one and explain the role you each play in your respective organization. Should we go with the Wildlife Conservation Society first? We agree? Okay, guys, let's start here.
I'm Ralna Lam Lewis. I'm the Assistant Country Director for Marine at the Wildlife Conservation Society. I've been working there for close to 12 years, and my work focuses a lot on the management effectiveness of these two marine reserves that we're mentioning today. I work a lot with the communities who utilize the areas, as well as with those involved in the direct on-the-ground site management, the folks from the Belize Fisheries Department, as well as other agencies who are integral to the management of the area.
Ralna, what got you interested in conservation and in working with the Wildlife Conservation Society?
Well, I love the sea. I have to say, I've lived in Belize City most of my life, and there's a deep connection with the sea, with the calmness that it brings. The large expanse of the sea just brings that calmness to your life and, centers you. So that's part of the reason that I got involved. And while studying abroad, it was in, the whole fascination about the role that fisher folks play in managing the resources that are out there, the interconnectedness that exists, When we think about natural resource management, we always think about we have to implement different regulations and policies, but at the end of the day, it involves the relationship that people have with the resources that they're utilizing. So that's part of the reason why I got involved in it, because I wanted to be involved with the community aspect of it, as well as the fisher folks, the women, the men who are integral in managing the resources that their livelihoods depend on.
Well, my father was a fisherman. He was a fisherman from the village of Placencia. So whenever I do a show with regards to fishing and conservation and so on, it's always very, very close to me because I remember him, and his beliefs in sustainable fishing and that sort of thing, because he used to talk to us about it. But let me get to know now Nicole Will Gomez. Let's talk to you, Nicole.
Hi, good morning. Nice to be here. I'm Nicole Will Gomez. I am the country director for the Wildlife Conservation Society's Belize program. So I've been with the organization for almost 10 years, for almost a decade. My history was more involved with marine mammals as I started my work with manatees in Belize, starting the National Manatee Program. So really started off at the coastal zone management when it was a project. And my work started with marine protected area, development for manatees, research, understanding the movement patterns and habitat use of these endangered species that Belize is really proud to have the most number of across the globe. And right now in my position as the country director, I have the privilege of working with an awesome team from our office. We have a nice team of Belizeans that are really working hard to protect nature and wildlife across marine and forest landscapes.
No, I'll ask you the same question that I asked Ralna, right? What made you become interested in this way of life?
Actually, my interest has always my interest started with animals.
How young?
When I was a little girl,
Okay.
I wanted to be a veterinarian, but alas, I am allergic to cats and probably quite a lot of dogs. So my career path, I started high school in St. Lucia, and I've always been exposed to water here in Belize and in Kaya. My father's from Benke. And the river and just the sea, and just seeing nature has always captured my interest. And in St. Lucia, just seeing the mountains and the ocean, and just being in awe of God's creation and nature, I wanted to always capture it. And so I decided the best way to potentially capture through photography would be getting into the field of what would get me in the field, something with wildlife. So getting involved in conservation and wildlife was my path to be engaged in nature, to be able to observe wildlife, observe behavior, and here I am today. My career started in '96, so quite a few years now.
Yeah, and I know you occupy the post of country director for the Wildlife Conservation Society. Maybe you could, but let's get to know the others first, and then you could tell me about the Wildlife Conservation Society a little later. Okay, let me turn to the Fisheries Department, and we'll turn to Lindolfo Chicas, who's the manager of Saltwater Key. You actually manage on Key, Lindolfo?
Yes, so hello, good morning, everyone. Lindolfo Chicas here. I do not have an introduction as this lady is here, but I work for the Belize Fisheries Department. I've been with the department for almost 13 years. I'm currently the manager for the Saltwater Key Marine Reserve, but I originally started as a biologist for Glover's Reef Marine Reserve in the year 2012. So now I am assigned in the Belize City main office, where I assist in the day-to-day management of all the marine protected areas that we have in the country, the ones that are managed by the Belize Fisheries Department. So that's me right there.
And the obvious question would be, how many marine protected areas are managed by the Belize Fisheries Department?
Okay, so we had a total of 5 marine protected areas that were managed by the department, but currently we have 2 that are still not under co-management. So we have the Sapodilla Keys that is now managed by Tide, and we have Bacalar Chico and Kikaka Marine Reserve that are managed by Holchan. So the 2 reserves that are still managed by the department are Saltwater Key Marine Reserve and Glover's Reef Marine Reserve.
Okay. And what made you become interested in this path in life?
Well, I think it all started when I was in primary school. You know, like when you get that typical question by your school teacher, what do you want to be when you're big?
Yeah.
Yeah, so my passion for the marine life started with, I think, National Geographic, like seeing all those videos, underwater world and what's not. Yeah, so that always captured my attention, along with the idea of wanting to be a diver. I wanted to see and to feel how that feels. So when I got into diving and I saw that down there is a whole different world, that was it for me. Yeah.
And you're working hard. I like the logo you have there, Sustainable Fisheries for Our Future. How important is for us to have sustainable fisheries for our future?
Well, I think that is the foundation of the department. I think not only the department, but also all the organizations such as WCS, that at the end of the day, that is the aim. Like we are always trying to make sure that these resources that we manage are there and will be there for the future generations. So it's not only for us in the department, it's not only the commercial industry, but it's also the tourism industry and also the sustainable development, which is a big topic at the moment.
Before I get to your colleague, could you talk to me a little bit about the relationship between yourselves and the WCS?
The Wildlife Conservation Society work hand in hand with the Belize Fisheries Department. Actually, they have a station in Glover's Reef Marine Reserve. And we have a ranger station that is located in their property, which is Middle Key. That's Glover's Reef. So we do a lot of collaboration, like they do a lot of research and monitoring, so do we, and they do a lot of community engagement. So most of the time, whenever there's different monitorings that need to be done, like we would either do it together or they have their own set of research that they conduct and we have our research that we conduct. So all this information, all this data that is compiled is usually used for managerial decisions that will affect the reserve.
Okay, and so your colleague here now, Kevin Rivera, is another manager, but he's a reserve manager. Kevin, let's get to know you first, and then if you could tell me in your introduction to the difference between being the reserve manager and the manager of Saltwater Key. I mean, you know, explain that.
Okay.
Introduce yourself first.
Yeah, so my name is Kevin Rivera. As you said, I am the reserve manager for Glover's Reef Marine Reserve. Essentially, manager and reserve manager, it goes hand in hand, you know, it's the same position. But our main focus, you know, our job is the entire reserve, right? So we just don't focus on a key or, you know, certain keys. We monitor the entire reserve. So, you know, within that reserve, it's responsible for certain fishing areas. So, you know, Belize has 9 areas for fishing. Glover's is area 8, and Saltwater Marine Reserve is number 3, right? Area 3. So, basically, we're responsible for those areas, making sure that no illegal fishing is happening. You know, people are following the regulations. You know, fishing within the season, not catching undersize, selling undersize, any aspect of that enforcement, and you know, just doing day-to-day monitoring and patrolling of those areas, those reserves.
And a personal question now, what made you become interested in being a conservation person, working with the Fisheries Department? How did all that start for you?
Well, from a young age, I've always been very environmental.
Still young?
Yeah, but from a younger age.
Oh, younger age,
Younger
okay.
age. Yeah, so obviously I'm a novice, you know, just starting out compared to everyone else here at this table. But I, you know, at a younger age, I've always been passionate about the environment, always environmentally cautious, conscious. So, you know, I think what set in stone for me was, you know, basically studying it in school, because, you know, for school you had internships and so forth, and I was a very avid intern with the Wildlife Conservation Society, and that's where I got most of my experience, right, starting from 2019. So I've been interning with different organizations, and that really set it for me, specifically for the marine sector. They really exposed me to that area, and I really fell in love with it. So I decided to continue working within that sector.
Now, how important it is, and anyone can answer me here.
So the whole concept of conservation boils down not only to one thing, but there's different benefits of sustainable fishing of these industries. We have the aspects that benefit the cultural. We have the cultural benefits, we have the economic benefits, and we have the ecosystem benefits. So when I speak to cultural benefits, let's focus in, for example, in Dangriga and Hopkins. During my time at Saltwater, I have witnessed at least 3 to 4 occasions where they would have this ceremony called the Dugu. They will come out to the marine reserves and, you know, like with their loved ones, and they would have their ceremony. And like, I was not invited, right? I was not there, but you know, like, you can hear the drumming, you can see them dancing, you know, like, and you can smell the food, right? So you can see that this is a tradition for them. So it's part of their way of life, right? So by us sustainably managing these resources, we can ensure that, you know, like, this whatever they need for these ceremonies will continue, and they'll still be there whenever they need it for the future, right? Now we have the economic aspects that will speak about, for example, the commercial fishing and the tourism sector, right? Because most of the marine species that live within these marine reserves are either targeted for commercial fishing species, such as the conch and the queen lobster. Which is the queen conch and the spiny lobster, right? And we have a variety of finfish, right? So when it comes to the tourism sector, we have species such as manatees and turtles that are endangered species. However, we do see them in a regular basis in these areas, especially in Saltwater Key Marine Reserve. So whenever whenever you have your guests, like you bring out a tour, like you have a visitor from the US or from other parts of the world, and they come to Belize, and like they have the opportunity to see or to like witness one of these creatures, like they go back happy, right? It's good for them because like they are seeing what they cannot see back in their country, and it's good for the tour guides and the tour operators because like it speaks good of our areas. It speaks health of our ecosystems, and like they are fulfilling what they're selling, right? So now when it comes to the ecological benefits, we have the different ecosystems that we have within these areas. We have three main ecosystems. We have the seagrass beds, we have the mangroves, and we have the different formation of corals, right? So we all know that mangroves are very important for habitats and nurseries for a variety of marine species. Like the same one that I just spoke about. We have species such as conch lobster, a variety of finfish, which are once again targets for either commercial fishing or for the tourism sector. We also have the seagrass beds, which are very important for feeding areas for the manatees and for the turtles. And also it goes back to the marine species like the finfish. They would spend one or several stages of their life cycle within these ecosystems. Now, when it comes to the coral reefs, we know that the barrier reef is the biggest protector that we have when it comes to storms, hurricanes, and stuff like that. So back to your question, these are the main reasons, and this is why we need to protect these ecosystems and these areas. So the marine reserves, basically, it's like a tool that we have implemented to manage an entire ecosystem rather than managing a single species.
Let's turn to the areas that you manage. I think, Kevin, you are the reserve manager. You explained your role already. When they say the reserve manager, you're talking about the same reserve, right? Yeah.
So we have two reserves, right? That are managed by the government of Belize. So reserve manager and manager basically are the same thing, right?
Reserve manager.
Yeah. So he manages the Glover's Reef Marine Reserve. I manage the Saltwater Key Marine Reserve.
Okay.
Right. So a little bit on the history of Saltwater Key Marine Reserve. It was established in the year 1996, and this was done through the Marine Reserve legislation of Belize. This was done on an effort to protect, again, and sustainably manage our resources. So saltwater, for you to have a better understanding, we have the entire Barrier Reef Reserve system, right? So Saltwater Key Marine Reserve is one of the 7 marine reserves that make up the Barrier Reef system, right? So if I'm not mistaken, saltwater is the 3rd largest marine reserve in the country of Belize, with an area of approximately 50,934 hectares. And is located in the southern Barrier Reef system, simply meaning that it's in the southern part of the country.
Okay.
So it is, I would say, roughly like 15 miles southeast of Dangriga town. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, like it's managed by the Belize Fisheries Department. Well, the government of Belize through the Belize Fisheries Department.
There are 7 reserved areas, protected areas on the Barrier Reef, right? You are the manager of Saltwater Key, and our friend here, Kevin, is the reserve manager for Glover's Reef.
Glover's Reef.
Now, let's hear the history of Glover's Reef.
Yeah. So.
Of the can be history of Glover's Reef. A part of that go way back. Yeah.
I think that's fine.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, I'll do that.
So, let's hear the story about Glover's Reef.
Yeah. So similar to my colleague, we are also part of the Belize Barrier Reef Reserve System. What's more different about us is that we're one of the 3 atolls that are found within our Belize waters, right? So we were established in 1993, and again, we're similar to saltwater, as in being found in the same direction, east of Dangriga, but we are a bit further out, around 28 miles away, right, from Dangriga, east of Dangriga. When it goes to the size of our reserve, we're not as big as the others. We're about 49,500 hectares, which includes an expansion that was recently, brought about with the Belize Sustainable Ocean Plan, which will be later, discussed. But yeah, that's a bit about our reserve, and yeah.
Now, the Belize Barrier Reef has been a designated UNESCO World Heritage Site. Maybe we could look at that and highlight the importance and the role that you all play in protecting this very key UNESCO site.
We know that the first protected area in Belize was established in the 1983, which was the Half Moon Key Natural Monument. And this was considered a monument to protect. It's an island. It's to protect the boobies, the brown-footed boobies. But the first marine protected area was actually established in 1987, and that's Holchan Marine Reserve. And that's where the Wildlife Conservation Society really started. So we really, yes, we started where we worked with the government of Belize to establish Holchan as a marine reserve. And so the legacy really started from the late Dr. Archie Chuck Carr and Jim Barbarack. There are other names as well, Janet Gibson and Jacques Carter. So they worked to protect the Holchan Marine Reserve as the first full marine reserve, so including water bodies, and that was 87. WCS really saw this as a starting point, really, and the organization then purchased the island Middle Key, which sits on the Glover's Reef Atoll. So as Kevin mentioned, Glover's Reef is an atoll. It's one of the most unique formations of coral that you would see across the globe. And in Belize, we have 3 of the 4 across Mesoamerica, right? So we purchased the island to support the government of Belize, where we then worked towards getting Glover's Reef Marine Reserve set up in 1993. And this was then moving forward. What's the next step? Really, the next step was seeing how we could engage with the UNESCO World Heritage Committee to designate several formations across the Barrier Reef system as protected. And so through negotiations and work, the 7 sites were identified as those that would be within the Belize Barrier Reef Reserve system. And those sites represent different types of coral formation. Like in Laughing Bird Key, for instance, it's a farrow, it's an inland atoll. It's a little circular reef as well. But we have fringing reef, barrier reef. There's a part at Bacalar Chico where the reef meets the mainland. So the representation had to be there. But really, it was through the process. So WCS worked with the government of Belize to get a grant under the Global Environmental Facility, under UNDP. And within that project, the design to establish or get the Belize Barrier Reef in the World Heritage System was put in. So the grant was received, and then the Coastal Zone Management Project was developed. And through the Coastal Zone Management Project, there was a lot of work that with Janet Gibson, Sue Wells, and the government of Belize at the time to put together a package to submit to the World Heritage Committee for the designation. And so that was successfully achieved in 1996. So the designation of Saltwater Key is in 1996. The Sapodilla Key Marine Reserve, 1996. We have Bacalar Chico, there's a national monument, and the Marine Reserve in the Natural Monument and Marine Reserve in 96, as well as the Laughing Bird Key Natural Monument as well. So across the Barrier Reef system, we have the serial nomination. There are several other marine reserves in Belize that are not a part of the serial nomination, but it is the uniqueness and special features, the abundance of fish, the uniqueness of fish, the uniqueness of different types of sea creatures, that really brought the uniqueness and universal, it's called the outstanding universal value, which is what we had to, what they had to identify in order to have the UNESCO committee accept the nomination. So this has really been a long process. It was a long process. It was difficult then. I understand it's more difficult now to get a UNESCO World Heritage Site declared. And it's really a beacon of pride and a beacon of unity, I think, that Belize really has to showcase for the world in our marine sector.
We will have much more of our conversation highlighting some of the attractions available at the sites. We take a break to hear from our partners: National Bank of Belize, the Barry, Minister Kevin Bernard, Silkgrass Farms, Del Martin, and Ministry of Blue Economy.
Your dream home isn't just a house, it's where your future takes shape. At NBB, we go beyond financing. Our partnership with trusted professionals ensure you're supported at every step. We simplify the process, offering expert advice, personalized services, and fast approvals to make your journey stress-free. With NBB, you're not just buying a house, you're investing in your future with confidence and ease. At NBB, we don't just help you finance your dream, we help you live it. National Bank of Belize, your partner every step of the way.
Debari is your one-stop store of choice. We have an array of electronics and accessories to keep you connected. Your home will be the envy of your friends when you choose from a wide variety of household appliances. We can help you dress the entire family in style and comfort with our selection of clothing and footwear. Visit our store on Albert Street in Belize City, San Pedro, La Isla Bonita, Park Street in Orange Walk Town, Belmopan, and San Ignacio, Santa Elena. Debari, get more, pay less.
At Silkgrass Farms, we believe in more than just growing food. We're cultivating a future. Across 9,000 acres in the foothills of the Maya Mountains, our family of farms grows a vibrant array of crops: coconuts, citrus, cacao, watermelons, avocados. But our mission goes beyond harvests. Through sustainable agriculture, we are not just growing crops, we're strengthening ecosystems and reversing the impacts of climate change. Silkgrass Farms is a part of a global movement, transforming modern food systems into living stories of nutrition, nature, and people. From our fields to your table, every product tells a story of health and hope for the future.
Years ago, Belize's blue economy was a vision, a dream waiting to be realized. It was an untapped resource with immense potential, but lacked the leadership and strategy to truly thrive. Today, under the leadership of Honorable Andrea Perez, Minister of Blue Economy and Disaster Risk Management, that vision is no longer just a dream, it's a reality. The blue economy has become a cornerstone of Belize's growth, creating sustainable jobs, boosting our GDP, and preserving our natural heritage. Under the previous administration, our rich marine resources and coastal communities faced many challenges: limited innovation, missed opportunities, and a lack of direction. This administration has championed groundbreaking initiatives such as the National Adaptation Plan for the Coastal Zone and Fisheries sector, which is the first of its kind in Belize and is a testament to the ministry's commitment to building a robust and sustainable blue economy. The Ministry of Blue Economy and Disaster Risk Management, safeguarding lives, seas, and sustainability.
Celebration time! It don't matter what part of the jewel they come from. You that you and me that me. But guess what? All are we the one. See what I mean?
we heard of 7 different designated, what you call them, serial sites, right? And you have other sites as well, right? What are those other sites that are called? What's the difference between a serial site and a designated site? Well, let's explain the whole thing to me.
So the Belize Barrier Reef Reserve System is designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site for its outstanding universal value for nature.
That's the overall Barrier Reef System.
Those are the seven sites. So the 7 sites include the Bacalar Chico National Park and Marine Reserve. It includes the Blue Hole National Monument, the Half Moon Key National Monument, the Glover's Reef Marine Reserve, the Southwater Key Marine Reserve, the Laughing Bird Key National Park, and the Sapadilla Keys Marine Reserve. So those make up the serial nomination. But there's several other protected areas, marine protected areas, including Turnef Atoll, Holchan Marine Reserve, the Keycocker Forest Reserve and Marine Reserve.
What's the difference between just being a marine reserve and a serial marine reserve? Why aren't there all them serial marine reserves?
No, so the serial just means it was 7 sites that made up the nomination. That's all it's saying. All it's saying is this. It's
not saying one is more important than the other.
In other parts of the world, a marine designation World Heritage Site might be one park. We have a serial nomination, which means it's not the whole barrier reef that's in the World Heritage. It's 7 sites, and that's why it's called a serial nomination. It's just saying there's 7 parts that make up the whole. That's all it means. It's 7 pieces, 7 distinct areas that are interconnected that make up this whole reserve system. But Belize also has additional reserves, of course.
In my mind, there's one of the reserves. Maybe it's not a serial reserve, but it's nevertheless one of the reserves and one that I like going to, and that's the Port Honduras Marine Reserve in the Toledo district, right? That's a reserve. That's a serial reserve, but it's one of the reserves. Right?
That is indeed a marine protected area, and a very important one for the southern part of the country. And there are other protected areas that are wildlife sanctuaries. Corozal Bay Wildlife Sanctuary and the Swallow Key Wildlife Sanctuary were designated in the marine space for the protection of manatees. And marine reserves fall under the jurisdiction of the Fisheries Department, while national monuments, national parks, and forest reserves fall under the jurisdiction of the Forest Department.
Let's turn to some of the unique features of these reserves that we're talking about. We're talking about 2 out of 7, right, of the main ones. Saltwater Key and Glover's Reef, right, Marine Reserve. What are the unique features? Let's turn first of all to...
Well, some of the unique features that we can find within Saltwater Key Marine Reserve. Well, first of all, saltwater is well known for its rich biodiversity, right? And we also have an area known as the Pelican Keys or the Pelican Range. The Pelican Keys is highlighted due to its unique formation, which is a ring reef, or also known as a farrel. Right? This area, we have had reports and we have had confirmations of sightings of leatherback turtles in this area. Yeah, and these leatherback turtles are extremely rare in our, or at least sightings are extremely rare in our country. So other than that, we have, if we come up north, we have a range of flats that is usually used by the people from Placencia and Hopkins, mainly for sport fishing. If you come up north, well, you have we have a couple ranges that we call, which will be a set of keys. In this case, it will be specific mangrove keys. As I mentioned earlier, very important for our ecosystems. We also have the Tobacco Key, which is an island that is quite unique to the area due to the fact of the combination that we have there. We have locals living there, we have fishermen living there, and we have a quite number of hotels and small resorts that also are located in this area. So whenever we have guests that come to this place, they have an experience of a variety of aspects from the community. You know, we have the local experience. They have, like fresh seafood and what's not. We also have an island a bit south from Tobacco that is Kariboki. This island hosts a research station, We also have a research station in Tobacco Key. So these two research stations usually house scientists or researchers, either student groups or like more in-depth researchers that would come from time to time to do their monitoring and their surveys and what's not. We also have an island that existed until up to last year, if I'm not mistaken, which is Manowarki, also known as Bird Key. This used to be actually within one of our zonations, which used to be the wilderness zone.
I can't help but pick up that you're saying used to be. What happened to the key?
Yes, well, the island eroded one tree at a time. So last year or like 2 years ago, we had the last mangrove or the last three or four mangroves that were still standing eventually fell, and the whole island just disappeared. So this was cause of erosion, this is some of the effects of climate change. Yeah.
So there's a wide variety of things one can do in that marine reserve, right? In the Saltwater Key Marine Reserve.
Yes, of course.
From what you're telling me.
So when you go to Saltwater Key and you're doing recreational activities, you can go diving, snorkeling, kayaking, sport fishing, or you can we have our locals that usually come around to do their subsistence fishing.
Is it true you could also party at Tobacco Key?
Yeah, of course. Tobacco Key is well known for the drinks.
Yes.
Yeah, so they usually host also a Conchs Fest. Just like the lobster fest, but it's for conchs. And we'll have different dishes, for different ways on how you can cook or prepare a conch. Yeah.
Let's turn to Glover's Reef, our next marine reserve that we are featuring today. What are some of the outstanding features or fun facts about Glover's Reef Marine Reserve?
Yeah, so for Glover's Reef Marine Reserve, it's a bit more different compared to saltwater, as we are a atoll, right? So we don't only have the barrier reef, east of our, reserve. We actually have a barrier, reef building, encapsulating the entire reserve, right? So that's one of our most, unique features, having a reef everywhere, but also, we have around 800 to 850 patch reefs, right? So that's within our lagoon, and that's just individual patches of actual coral reef, which house, a huge amount of biodiversity, not only for our finfish, but also for our conch and lobster and dolphins and, turtles and everything. We also have, our seagrass beds and our flats, which are very important, like feeding grounds for, again, our finfish, lobster, especially for our conch, as the conch usually feed on the algae on the flats or on seagrass, on those seagrass beds.
Are there any islands in
yes.
Glover's Reef? How many?
Yes, so compared again to other reserves, we only have 4 islands. That is Northeast Key, Long Key, Middle Key, and Southwest Key, right? On those islands, there are various, resorts. We don't really have permanent residents. They're mainly people who run their resorts, and the islands are family owned. Those are mainly specific with Northeast Key and Southwest Key. Those 2 islands are, passed down, and they have a large history of, locals using them, and then there's a fisherman range on Long Key, which is, that's just a fisherman's agreement to, use the house that is there. So anyone that comes to fish, they're commercial fishers, they usually go there and spend their 3 days there, pack up and everything, and then leave it for someone else. One of the most fun facts about the reserve would be where its name originated from. So it's actually Glover's, as in
Is there Mr. Glover?
Yeah, so there are
Mrs. Glover?
yeah. So there are the Glover's brothers, Roger and John Glover. So these were pirates, so-called pirates from the early 1800s and 1900s, they were said to, use the islands at Glover's Reef for hiding their treasure, right? So it was a very important area for them so that they could, rendezvous and, settle for, time to time and use it for a base essentially, right? So it's said to have, their treasure there. Hasn't been found yet, though.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask you, if there's a possibility of us going treasure hunting.
Yeah, obviously a possibility. It could either be on the island or already at the bottom of the ocean. So
you find people coming to, like tourists coming and wanting to do treasure hunting?
Honestly, I think the main treasure people go and look for is the unique features that we have: diving, snorkeling, kayaking, paddleboarding, fly fishing. That's the treasure that people go and look for, right? Yeah, they're not looking for real gold. That's the goal. They want blue instead of gold.
They want blue instead of gold. I like that. Of course, Glover's Reef is one of the 3 atolls that are found in Belize, right? There are 4 in the Western Hemisphere, for what I know. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let me see how much I know. There are 4 in the Western Hemisphere. 3 of them are in Belize: the Lighthouse, Turnef, and Glover's Reef. Right? Those are the three atolls that we have. There's the other one is in Mexico. All right. So let's say how proud we are to have this massive reef system and a lot of work that the WCS has to do in keeping 2 of them, going. Well, Ralna, all the work that you all do, the WCS, the Fisheries Department, need to have the cooperation and goodwill of the communities that are impacted by these protected areas. What is that like?
So, as mentioned by both Lindolfo and Kevin, there's a wide range of uses at both of these reserves, which then determines the users that we need to engage with and the communities that we're also engaging with. So, for example, we have users from far up north as Sartineja. We have fisher folk who visit these areas on their sailboats for periods of 7 days or more. We also have those as nearby from Dangriga, Hopkins, we have from City River, Riversdale, Placencia, and then we also have the residents out at Tobacco Key as well who utilize these areas, and then we have a wide range of persons engaged in tourism who utilize the areas. So for us, when we look at our stakeholders, we're engaging both persons like your fisher folk from the tourism sector, from the Fisheries Department, as well as the owners of these islands, the resort owners as well, since they have an integral part to play when it comes to what type of uses are occurring and how their visitors are actually engaging with the resources out there. So at one level, we have what we call advisory committees for both of these reserves, which we have representation, like I said, from fisher folk, from the tourism sector, your land owners, as well as from your municipal bodies, from the town boards, as well as from the village councils who would sit on the advisory committees. We meet on a quarterly basis, and the purpose of it is for us to get update in terms of how the area is being managed, enforcement efforts, monitoring efforts, what is the impact of the monitoring, what is it showing based on the enforcement and the management that is in place at these areas, as well as it provides a venue for our stakeholders to share what they think could be done in order to inform the management, to improve the management, whatever concerns they have. So that is one avenue that we have that allows us to engage with them. Then we also have engagements such as the boat to boats that we usually do when we have the opening of the lobster season or the conch season, as well as the closing. Sometimes we'll have the boat to boats. So the boat to boats is something more interactive, whereby it's called boat to boat. So you have persons from the Fisheries Department and the Wildlife Conservation Society, as well as the Belize Coast Guard, because the Belize Coast Guard does have presence at both of these reserves. So we'll go on the vessels, for example, from WCS or from the fisheries, and we go and interact with the fisher folk. Usually in the evening when they're on their vessels cleaning their catch for the day, they're more relaxed. So we'll take some refreshments, because everyone welcomes a nice cold beverage at the end of the day, and some snacks, and we'll talk to them about, how has the fishing season been so far, how is it going, what type of concerns they have in terms of enforcement or anything happening that we would maybe need to, the Fisheries Department could work on, or we could relate to the port authorities, because sometimes it's in relation to navigation that they'll have issues, that they'll need, certain things being rectified out there. So it provides a means for us to have that type of open engagement. So we go and revisit the boats, and this is done by a lot of other partners as well who are involved in management of these areas. So that's one avenue again that we use. Then we do a lot of engagement within the communities. Like what they mentioned earlier, when we're conserving these areas, obviously the monitoring, whatever the result of that is, it impacts what type of policies or guidelines they're going to have at these reserves. In some instances, you have restrictions being put in place, whether, the closed seasons, the open seasons, restrictions in terms of size, gears that you're utilizing. So this inevitably impacts the fisher folks' ability to earn an income, whether it's immediately, but the end result is that over time it's supposed to positively impact it. So what we do is that we engage with the communities. We look at different livelihood opportunities that the communities are interested in. For right now, there's a lot of interest in seaweed farming. So we've been engaging especially with communities from Riversdale and Placencia, with some of the women's group that they have there who have established farms, and supporting them in terms of, they want to expand their farms. Some of them are looking at actually establishing farms out at Glovers to see suitable areas for them to plant seaweed. And then we're also trying to work with them in terms of the processing aspect of it, establishing the drying sheds, and and then for them, they're the ones who are then looking at the markets that they can then sell these products at. There's also, you have communities such as Hopkins. There's a shift. If you look at some of these communities, there's a shift in terms of your older persons were more so engaged in fishing, but a lot of the younger persons want to divert into tourism. They want to remain on the sea, but the lifestyle is a little bit different, right? It's more fun, enjoyable, whereas, you're fishing, it's a lot of responsibility being out there for those long periods of time, wondering whether or not you'll be able to bring back income home, being away from your family as well. So in these communities in particular, you have people who want to get involved in tourism. So we're also working with them to look at getting them certified, getting their tour guide license, as well as, someone to be engaged in boat captain. So we're also investing in that. And then the next level in terms of dive certification and so on. And then obviously we cannot forget the women who are so, who are important as well, because you have the women, some of whom remain at home, help to process the catch or support the family, while the men are at sea. They're involved in the business aspect of the whole fishing venture and so on. So for some of them, they're interested, for example, in craft making and sewing. So we're providing that type of support as well. And eventually, we want to be able to provide support in terms of financial management and marketing of the products that they're making, and the sewing and the crafting, and providing them advanced training. So those are some of the investments that we've been making within these communities. And the idea behind it is that, fishing and like what they've mentioned, there are several impacts that we're seeing within our coastal and our marine ecosystems, whether it's from climate change, the way we're utilizing the areas, the negative impacts that we're having, and it can impact your ability to generate your income and support your family. So it's a means of diversifying their income base at the home. So these investments focus on diversifying the income of the household. So other persons within the households are able to contribute towards the overall income. So there's less reliance, and you're not so, the impacts, the economic impacts that climate change can have on you. It's, if you're able to build the capacity of the persons within the household, then the impact can lessen. People are able to venture into other avenues to ensure that their families are able to be sustained, regardless of the impacts that that we're seeing occurring within our ecosystem.
We will hear more about the challenges after this break to hear from our partners. National Bank of Belize, the Barry, Minister Kevin Bernard, Silkgrass Farms, Del Martin, and Ministry of Blue Economy.
You that you and me that me. But guess what? All are we the one.
Your dream home isn't just a house, it's where your future takes shape. At NBB, we go beyond financing. Our partnership with trusted professionals ensure you're supported at every step. We simplify the process, offering expert advice, personalized services, and fast approvals to make your journey stress-free. With NBB, you're not just buying a house, you're investing in your future with confidence and ease. At NBB, we don't just help you finance your dream, we help you live it. National Bank of Belize, your partner every step of the way.
Debari is your one-stop store of choice. We have an array of electronics and accessories to keep you connected. Your home will be the envy of your friends when you choose from a wide variety of household appliances. We can help you dress the entire family in style and comfort with our selection of clothing and footwear. Visit our store on Albert Street in Belize City, San Pedro, La Isla Bonita, Park Street in Orange Walk Town, Belmopan, and San Ignacio, Santa Elena. Debari, get more, pay less.
At Silkgrass Farms, we believe in more than just growing food. We're cultivating a future. Across 9,000 acres in the foothills of the Maya Mountains, our family of farms grows a vibrant array of crops: coconuts, citrus, cacao, watermelons, avocados. But our mission goes beyond harvests. Through sustainable agriculture, we are not just growing crops, we're strengthening ecosystems and reversing the impacts of climate change. Silkgrass Farms is a part of a global movement, transforming modern food systems into living stories of nutrition, nature, and people. From our fields to your table, every product tells a story of health and hope for the future.
Four years ago, Belize's blue economy was a vision, a dream waiting to be realized. It was an untapped resource with immense potential, but lacked the leadership and strategy to truly thrive. Today, under the leadership of Honorable Andre Perez, Minister of Blue Economy and Disaster Risk Management, that vision is no longer just a dream, it's a reality. The blue economy has become a cornerstone of Belize's growth, creating sustainable jobs, boosting our GDP, and preserving our natural heritage. Under the previous administration, our rich marine resources and coastal communities faced many challenges: limited innovation, missed opportunities, and a lack of direction. This administration has championed groundbreaking initiatives such as the National Adaptation Plan for the Coastal Zone and Fisheries sector, which is the first of its kind in Belize and is a testament to the ministry's commitment to building a robust and sustainable blue economy. The Ministry of Blue Economy and Disaster Risk Management, safeguarding lives, seas, and sustainability.
Celebration time. It don't matter what part of the jewel they come from. You that you and me that me. But guess what? All are we the one. See what I mean?
Well, climate change, would you say, is your biggest threat?
It's one of the biggest threats that we're seeing, climate change. And I mean, the guys could talk about the monitoring that they're doing and what they're seeing in terms of coral bleaching and other diseases such as stony coral tissue loss disease, black band disease, how these are impacting the ecosystems. I mean, because these occurrences, obviously, like what they mentioned, your fin fish and your lobster and your conch are dependent upon these ecosystems. You know, it's their habitat, it's their source of food. You know, so if these ecosystems are impacted by climate change, then obviously it will impact the productivity of your fisheries sector.
Okay, Kevin, let's continue looking at some of the threats at all the spaces.
Yeah, so both Glover's Reef Marine Reserve and Saltwater Key Marine Reserve, you know, we basically face this similar threats. You know, one of the biggest ones that Ms. Rallna mentioned was climate change. You know, at both reserves, those can obviously be seen when it comes to coral bleaching, right? With efforts from both the department and Wildlife Conservation Society, you know, we do a lot of monitoring. So this is coral bleaching monitoring, where we essentially have specific sites at both reserves that we monitored every year, maybe twice for the year, all depending on the climate at the moment. So if we know we've had a huge, you know, a month that's been extremely hot compared to the others, we'll, you know, take time, funding will be found, and, you know, a trip will be set to monitor those areas, right? So that's just to see how it has been affected by the high climate, you know, the higher temperatures compared to the previous months. So far, from what I've seen, you know, with my work with both the department and Wildlife Conservation Society, during those months we are really greatly affected by, you know, the higher temperatures. You know, there are months where everything is literally white.
Rising, right?
Yeah. So you see everything that climate change is actually affecting, right? It does recover, you know, our reef does recover, but the hotter and the longer the periods are within that high temperature, you know, it takes way much longer for them to recover, right? We also have threats such as, you know, overfishing and illegal fishing, you know, unsustainable fishing, right? That would be more something that the department, you know, would be focused and responsible for, as we are responsible for enforcement, right? So we do a lot of the enforcement with all the fishers that go out to our reserves, and we essentially make sure that everyone is fishing within the season, not, you know, fishing for lobster. Right now that it just recently closed, no one should be, you know, fishing or selling lobster or have, you know, in their possession any product from lobsters, right? You know, we're to also make sure that they're within the correct zones. So for our reserves, we basically have two very important zones. We have the general use zone and the conservation zone. General use zone is literally for everything: recreational fishing, commercial fishing, you know, any activity you want to do and that is permitted by the government can be done within those zones. However, we do have the conservation zone that you can only do recreational activities. No type of commercial fishing should be done in those zones, as that, you know, that is illegal, right? So those also would be considered no-take zones. Whatever is within that zone should not be taken, you know,
No
whether
for commercial, no for pleasure.
nothing, not at all, right? Whether it be seaweed, whether it be conch, lobster, fish, you can't even fish off your dock, right? It's supposed to be that strict, right? So, and it's enforced that no one should be doing those things within the conservation zone.
Just to add, when it comes to threat, the location of both of these reserves, especially when you look at Glover's, these areas are offshore, you know, roughly around 28 miles from Dangriga. So it places them in a position whereby they're extremely vulnerable to transboundary fishing. So you do have fishers illegally coming from neighboring countries such as Guatemala and Honduras who would target these areas. And like what Kevin had mentioned, the area is dotted with a lot of patch reefs, so it's difficult to navigate, especially during the nighttime. So being able to respond to threats and, during the nighttime, it gets a little bit tricky, and it's high risk as well. So as a result of that, you do have, when it comes to enforcement, the Fisheries Department works in close collaboration with the Belize Coast Guard and other entities in order to patrol these areas and, to really focus on deterring illegal activities from occurring within the areas. There are improvements, where there's an interest in looking at different technology-based solutions to assist with the enforcement of these areas. They're utilizing SMART to track their efforts, which stands for Spatial Monitoring and Reporting Tool, to track their enforcement efforts, as well as looking at, could the possibility of radars and other technology be utilized in the areas to detect when other vessels are in the areas and how to respond to them in an effective way.
We've been talking quite a lot about the work that you all do, and let me congratulate you on the wonderful job that you're doing, because this is very important, the issue of preserving what we have, our natural heritage, and enhancing it for the enjoyment of not only Belizeans but from our visitors and from all over the world is very important. So let's look towards the future at this point in time, and what the future would hold, and what are some of the things that we should do to make sure that we have these wonderful assets preserved for the future.
Okay, so we're currently in the process of updating the management plans for both of the marine reserves. They've done a recent management effectiveness for the reserves to look at how it is performing, and our aim is that with this updated management plan, we'll take into consideration the ecological aspects, the enforcement aspects, all of these things that are needed in order to improve the effectiveness of the underground management of the areas, so that at the end of the day we can see realized impacts in terms of the ecosystem health and the benefits to those utilizing the areas. So the approach that we're using is integrated in terms of we're ensuring that considerations are being made when it comes to management that looks at gender equity and social inclusion. So we're looking at the marginalized groups as well as looking at women. How can women be engaged in the management? How, when these policies and guidelines are put in place, what considerations are there in place to ensure that women are not further discriminated or marginalized when it comes to the utilization of these areas. We're also integrated climate adaptation measures as well. Like we've mentioned, these areas are being impacted tremendously by the impacts of climate change, which at the end of the day results in coral bleaching, increase diseases among our coral reefs. So we're seeing all of these different impacts. So we need to be aggressive in terms of how we're going to ensure that we're adapting to the impacts, and we're putting measures in place to ensure that the impacts are not as not as great on these ecosystems. In addition, so when it comes to that, we have our parametric insurance that was put in place for both of the reserves. And you might be saying, what is parametric insurance?
Exactly, I was about to go there. What is the parametric insurance?
So simply stated, parametric insurance is insurance for the reef. So we're in the area that we're at, we're impacted by hurricanes. And when the hurricanes come along, they do impact the reef. Most of the times we look at the impact that happens to your property, right? But there's impact to the reef, there's impact to the ecosystem. So what can be put in place to address the impacts? So the parametric insurance, once the hurricane impacts the reef area, it then signals a payout, which allows us to have a brigade in place. So we've trained persons within these same communities that utilize the areas. So from Dangriga, Hopkins, Belize City, Placentia, we've trained community members to be able to respond once a hurricane occurs. So they go out to the sites, they measure whatever impact has occurred, they do their assessments, and then after that we put in place recovery measures. So if it's coral restoration measures that are needed, which basically allows the coral to we're trying to reattach the corals, we're trying to ensure that the corals have a fighting chance to survive. They don't just remain there as coral rubble, being impacted by the coral reef. So that is one of the means that we're utilizing with the parametric insurance for both Saltwater Key and Glover's Reef Marine Reserve. And also we're really taking an approach of community focused management. How can the communities take on greater ownership and responsibility for the management of the areas? So the focus is not to only engage them when it comes to planning and when you're rolling out policies and so on and regulations, but for them to take up the responsibility when it comes to ownership, when it comes to the enforcement of the area, for them to be more so responsible to ensure that the areas are being managed for them and for their future generations, and that it will have positive benefits to them as well. So those are some of the approaches that we're looking forward as we move forward.
Okay, let's turn to you, Nicole.
Yeah, so as we move forward, our continued commitment to supporting the Fisheries Department and the government of Belize really to strengthen enforcement, research, and management of these amazing sites. And one of the things, so we, as was mentioned, so we own a small island, and the purpose of the organization purchasing that island back in the early 90s was to be able to provide support to the government. So we have the Fisheries Department as well as the Belize Coast Guard stationed on the island.
Could I ask you to remind me which island this is and what all you have on this island?
Certainly. The island is called Middle Key, and actually it's our research station. And so while we are host to the government of Belize on the island, so the island is one of the small islands in the atoll, and it's as was mentioned, all the islands are private. So this is why the government of Belize utilizes the one that we've purchased. And really what we envision is providing more support. So this island is where we have dormitory style accommodations for student groups and researchers. So there's a lot of work that has been done for looking at critically endangered NASA grouper, for instance. That's one of the legacies of WCS's research work starting back in the 90s, looking at what are the trends for this important finfish species. It's an important finfish species across the wider Caribbean, and we've been looking at trends for this important spawning aggregation site at Glover's. And of course, this information helps to inform policy that the Fisheries Department has moved forward. So we have closed seasons, size limits, and so on. But we look forward to really building more on this research station into a center of excellence to showcase globally some of the great successes that have for management in Belize and abroad, and have cultural and meaningful exchanges to improve management, and how we use technology, for instance, being one of the things. So we like to pilot things, and technology being something like right now we're testing hydrophones in those spawning aggregation sites. Hydrophones is basically an underwater microphone that's recording things like fish. So there's signatures that you can identify the fish that swim by, but we can also hear boat engines. And these are tools that people in the enforcement sector can look at to help with their intelligence gathering. So when are boats coming to the site? When do we need to invest in having boats there where we know it's not going to necessarily potentially be a Belizean boat? It might be a foreign vessel that are coming into Belize's waters, so a point of national security, of course. So piloting things like that, piloting drones we've done in the past. So really looking at this Center for Excellence to support marine protected area management across Belize's blue space, really. And that's our ambition for the future, to continue supporting Government of Belize.
Very good. And that's the Wildlife Conservation Society, working along with the Belize Fisheries Department to ensure that there's sustainable fisheries for our future and that people and ourselves as Belizeans can enjoy the richness of our beautiful marine reserves. Now, let's hear now from Lindolfo.
Yes, so I think on our side, I think we're gonna, our plan is to continue collaboration. Organizations such as the Wildlife Conservation Society. We also have, when it comes to the enforcement aspect of it, we do work along with, for example, the Department of the Environment. If specifically for Saltwater Key Marine Reserve, we do have a lot of keys since we are a bigger area. We have a lot of development that happens. So we do work along with Department of the Environment, the Forestry Department. So whenever there's like reports or there are incidents of illegal development, we would do joint operations with them, do site inspections. Like if there is anybody that is developing an area or developing a key without the proper permits, like they will be stopped and like they will be taken into court and like they will, the department that is responsible for whatever is happening will just take over.
Even though the coal company organization owns her key, she has to develop it in accordance with the rules and guidance of the Fisheries Department. I think that's important to establish because you may say, well, I own this and I could do what I want. So you really can't do what you want. You have to develop in accordance with the rules and regulations that are specified.
Yes, yeah. So it's not only the Fisheries Department that has the regulations, right? So that's why I say like we collaborate with different organizations, different entities. Yes. So for instance, if it's mangrove clearance, that will be forestry. Okay. If it's dredging, that will be Department of Mining, the Department of the Environment. So like all of these departments have to be clear. They give the clearance for the development to happen.
So if Nicole wants to clear her island, she has to go through a whole lot of different organizations.
Environmental study and like the whole full works. Yeah. Yeah. So
because you got interest in preservation, and I know you're not going on the road, right?
Yeah. So like that will be the enforcement aspect. Then when it comes to working along with organizations that deal with research and monitoring, such as WCS again. We also collaborate with an organization named Fragments of Hope, which is stationed in Placencia. So Fragment of Hope, they're physically out there doing replanting and assisting areas that are damaged either by a hurricane, a storm, a boat grounding and stuff like that, right? So they would typically come around, like they have their nurseries, they have their beds, like they'll come and it's a team of them, like to replant what is damaged so that it can grow back again. We also work with Reef Keepers, which is another organization down south that focus mainly on education and outreach. So we work with them, like they will bring along students or community members that are of these communities, like these coastal communities that were mentioned. And we'll just give them a presentation on what is the work that's being done and basically the importance of why we're doing it. So I think that along with Coastal Zone is currently engaged in the SMP and the BSOP, which aims basically to do a map of our ocean space to see which areas are being utilized for what activities. So the idea behind this is to avoid user conflict of the areas and to maximize the species for the activities, either for commercial fishing, boating, research, recreational fishing, commercial fishing, and so on, right? So the idea is to have the ocean space and to maximize the areas, the use of the areas without creating any type of conflict between the users.
Yeah, by assuring our future.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Kevin. Okay, Kevin, let's hear from you.
Yeah, so additionally to what Lindolfo was saying, with collaborations with the Coastal Zone Management and Authority Institute, they are basically heading the BSOP, which is the Belize Sustainable Ocean Plan. They have recently completed their milestone 4, which was for expansion of certain reserves, specifically the atolls. This is a expansion of different percentages. For Glover's Reef, it was an expansion of 0.78%, which is essentially, to put a picture to your head, is a extension from the reef around the atoll 2 miles out. So
from the reef.
from the reefs, right? So this area will be essential for shark protection, right? So within these areas, you are not allowed to, fish for sharks. If you catch a shark, you are to release it immediately. You are not allowed to, use hooks greater than 39 millimeters, and you're not allowed to, use unanchored or drifting long lines. So those are some things that are essential that are being pushed for the protection of sharks here in Belize. And if you are to fish beyond those 2 miles, you are in need of a special shark license that would be given to you, or you'd have to apply with the Department of Fisheries, right? So that's something very essential right here, and going along with our plans with Blue Bonds, right, to expand our marine protected areas.
This has certainly been an enlightening discussion, and I wish we had the time to continue it because, Belize is the most beautiful country in the world, and you all are custodians of some of the most beautiful parts of this beautiful jewel of ours. Is there anything any of you would like to add before we wrap up here?
Well, to end up, I would like to, thank you guys for the time here, Kevin, Nicole, Ralna, thank you for being here and to making time out of your busy schedule. To the general public, I would just like to emphasize, and we hope that by the end of this session, you guys had a better understanding on what we're doing and why we're doing it. I hope that you guys have an understanding on the importance of the ecosystems that we're trying to protect. So it's not only for us, it's for you guys. And of course, whenever you have the time, please come out and visit. Get to know Belize. Get to know Belize. Enjoy your country. It's beautiful out there. As how they usually say, right? Take pictures and leave only footprints, right? And finally, I would like to give thanks to the Marathon project, because currently we are engaged in a branding of the reef with them, right? So they're assisting us with signage for the different marine protected areas, with some of the rules and regulations for the specific areas. So I would just like to say thanks for that.
Who's next?
And should you want to visit Glover's as a student group or a researcher, please do contact us at WCS, or through the Fisheries Department. They can also get in contact with us. But it's one of the most amazing protected areas, and South Water Key and Glover's Reef are just amazing.
So, one of the things that we really want people to take home or take from this entire interview is that management of these reserves, it's cross-cutting. It's not only in terms of the Fisheries Department or your NGOs who are involved in the management, but you yourself, the viewers of this program, the persons who utilize the areas of fisher folk, persons in tourism, from the communities, you have an integral role to play when it comes to management of the reserves. So we always ask that when it comes to discussions, meetings, please make every effort to attend these meetings, because the outcomes of these meetings are what basically put in place the policies and guidelines for management, for your designation of your areas as marine reserves, for whatever regulations are put in place for the fisheries sector. So we always ask that you become engaged in the process and ensure that your voice is heard, whosoever you're representing, that your voice is heard when it comes to all of the decisions that are being made.
All right, and Kevin, you got the last word.
Yeah, so I would like to thank Blue Bonds for providing, the Fisheries Department with very needed resources that we need in day-to-day patrolling and enforcement of our reserves, right? The resources they provide to us are literally essential for what we are doing and what we're trying to accomplish within our reserves. So thanks to them, and thanks to all those, our partners, WCS, and every other partner that, is helping to preserve and conserve the waters of Belize.
Well, thank you so much, Kevin, for talking with us, and also Lindolfo. Right? Thank you so much, Nicole, and thank you so much, Ralna. Okay, it was my pleasure to have had this discussion with you all and to learn so much from you. You know, our national anthem, Land of the Free by the Carib Sea, in its second verse says, nature has blessed thee with wealth untold. And it's people like you all that guard and help to protect this wealth untold that Belize has. But it has to be done, of course, and we have to love, right? And what I like is that we have to have knowledge of our past so it can impact our present and we can shape our future when we have those two things under our belts, so to speak, right? But it's all inspired by love. Love for this country so richly blessed by nature with all the wealth untold. And thanks so much for the role you play in preserving this wealth. But love is also a choice. And so because we choose to love, because we choose to love Belize, because we choose to love God, because we choose to love our fellow being, and because we choose to love ourselves, and because we choose just to love, we say Belize and beyond. Thanks for choosing love.
Celebration time. It don't matter what part of the jewel they come from. You that you and me that me. But guess what? All are we the one.